Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Great Malabite Efeni.
Good morning, Ruben.
Great Malabite.
Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Without L. Now, we'll start the review with this day Nigeria's newspaper of record. We'll start with the lead story. At Ganduje's coronation, Tinubu says his election most credible, declares his policy are for Nigerians not to punish them. APC NEC ratifies Ganduje. Bashiru as National Chair Secretary rubbishes EU report, empowers NWC to fill other vacancies. New chair promises strict adherence to internal democracy. Ruling party's national legal advisor resigns amid graft charges. Now, yesterday, Abdullahi Ganduje, the immediate past governor of Kano State, was elected the chairman of the ruling party, the All Progressive Congress, and of course, Senator Bashiru, the national secretary. APC has a way of dealing with issues, and the immediate past chairman, Senator Abdullahi, was shoved, forced out of office one way or the other. But it did not take much time to ensure that a new chairman emerged instead of parading the place with an acting chair, as we usually see in the past. But it was an opportunity for the president to also make some statements, including insisting that the election that brought him to power is the most credible. But, of course, there are challenges before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. And I'm sure we just have to wait till we get through with these petitions, with all the allegations made at the tribunal. And perhaps after the Supreme Court will have ruled, then we can crown this election in whatever garb we want to do. Of course, for the winner, whoever is the winner will say is the most credible election. After all, not everybody has the honesty of Umaru Shehu Yar'Adua, who said the election that brought me to office was flawed. But, of course, the PDP, looking at what the APC has done, as reported by the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, where waiting game in APC, Nigerian Tribune, yes, as Ganduje Bashiru emerges National Chair Secretary. Kyari Edu Lukman's position up for grabs. PDP mocks party over Ganduje's appointment. In the words of the PDP, the main opposition party, Abdullahi Ganduje is ethically challenged to be given that kind of responsibility. But I would rather advise the PDP to learn one or two things from the APC. When you don't want your chairman, you let him go. You do everything to ensure that some other person takes over. And of course, if PDP cannot learn a few lessons from the decisiveness of the APC, and in this case, the leader of the party, who is the president of the country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then they will not learn anything. But I think there are lessons to be learned which will be very useful to the PDP as a party. Now, the other story on front page of these day newspapers, the story about the window story, as it were, above the masthead, Niger crisis. In search of resolution, Tinubu dispatches 3-man team to Niamey. Abdul Salami Abubakar leads delegation, sends another team headed by King Gibe to interface with leaders of Libya or Algeria. Will convey regional heads' displeasure to Kupis, says ex-head of state, defense headquarters. ECOWAS military chiefs yet to receive battle order to engage Niger. Atiku, ACF, ADO advised AU, ECOWAS against military action, harp on diplomacy. Of course, the Daily Trust newspaper, also in its lead, don't evade Niger, Prominent Nigerians tell Tinubu, ask ECOWAS to consider diplomacy sanctions. Daily Trust newspaper, fear in North over mass influx of refugees. Military action, last option, defense headquarters. Abdul Salami Sultan meets coup leaders in Tinubu's emissaries, where the option of military intervention in the situation in Niger Republic, many Nigerians are saying, don't do that. And perhaps the delegation we are seeing going out to dialogue and to explore diplomatic options should have been the first action before the threat and deadline to the coupists in Niger Republic, because now it looks like a matter of pride, a national pride, that they cannot decide their own internal affairs as Nigerians. But the Guardian newspaper also writing an editorial on this topic. The coup in Niger, military option unrealistic. The Guardian newspaper is writing this morning. But the lead story of the Guardian, Nigeria's political dynasties wax stronger as poverty deepens. And of course, the Guardian newspaper taking a look at how politicians have positioned their children to take over, whether they meet the mark or not. And of course, the story there, the increasing number of old politicians maneuvering the system to get their biological sons and daughters to either occupy elective positions or secure political appointments, turning Nigeria's democracy gradually towards oligarchy. That's the report of the Guardian. And of course, the photographs lined up there. There's Akala, there's Adefarati, there's Boris Swenu, there's Akeredolu, there's Erofai, there's Buka Ibrahim, there's Ofia, there's Orode Udwahan, and there's Oshoba, and there's Saraki. Politicians positioning their children, their wards, either through election or appointment. That's the Guardian. It's a big story, they call it. Now, if we look at the Punch newspaper, subsidy protest, federal government labor talks collapse, NLC begins strike August 14. While Labour made a U-turn on agreements reached with Tinubu on subsidy removal, that's Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, LCCI, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry demand more palliative from federal government. NLC gives reasons for ending protests. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper also reporting this story. Court summons. NLC threatens nationwide strike from August 14 if alleges Justice Ministry being used to truncate democracy, silence workers' voices. Tinubu vows to satisfy yearnings of poor in larger restructured economy. Of course, the Nation newspaper reporting above the masthead, NSA probes another vessel held with stolen crude. Suspected military boat escorting ship. Suspected military boat escorting ship caught with stolen crude. Well, I'm sure the NSA, the National Security Advisor, will have to brief Nigerians after proper investigation the role of a military boat when escorting a vessel carrying stolen crude. Now, the foreign newspapers quickly. Now, the Times of London, economy is caught in a trap, says Chancellor. Interest rates not expected to fall before election. Of course, the Chancellor saying Britain was stuck in a low growth trap after official figures showed the nation faced a sustained period of high interest rate before the next general election. Of course, the rates were raised yesterday, the base rate by 0.25% to bring it to 5.25%, the highest in 15 years. Of course, the Daily Telegraph reporting NHS goes private to end backlog. Yes, Rishi Sunak is planning the biggest expansion of private sector involvement in the NHS since the Blair era in an effort to clear record backlog ahead of the next general election. Of course, private sector firms will be asked to operate community diagnostic centers for NHS patients, starting with 8 units, carrying out more than 400,000 scans, checks, and tests a year. Of course, the number of people on the waiting list, 7.47 million in the UK. Hence, the need to bring in the private sector as the government is planning. That announcement will be made by ministers today. Of course, the Washington Post, the prompt, please not guilty in DC case.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel Efene. I understand we don't have much time. But as for Niger, it's good that the president is now sending delegations to Libya, to Algeria, and also to Niger, because now, according to reports today, there are protests in Niger, and they are targeting President Tinubu of Nigeria. It's either they are saying Nigeria Bameyi, or they are saying Ebola Tinubu. They change his name to Ebola. You know, you see the price Nigeria has to pay when, you know, we provide regional leadership.